my GoPro media mod has given up the ghost. I think you can just about hear that rattle. What that rattle is the connections for the microphone that goes in there. So the connections that connect to the jack have gone. So they've been either pushed in or unseated, or I don't know, but that's the issue. So there was zero sound happening. So enough bluster and blabber from me. Let's roll into the video and let's talk along the way. I think watching me perched on this little rock, you can appreciate just how strong that wind was. It was throwing those waves against the rocks and kicking up spray everywhere, but I was determined to get an image or two, and so I sat up high on this rock that you see before us, and I was determined to get something out of this morning. So I'm watching the histogram here, making sure that we have that little gap on the right hand side, because that's where the highlights are, and I want to make sure that we don't clip any of those highlights. Well, this is our first image of the morning. Beautiful foreground, and I'm going to focus at 3 points in the image and stack that together later on in post. So this is Petrol Cove, a wonderfully jagged and prehistoric type of landscape, full of sharp rocks and little canyons for this water to come wash in and create this beautiful contrast. Now the sun was due to rise up behind this hill here, and I was hoping that maybe when the sun does pop over that it would light our rocks. So I decided to move a little closer to the action here. I thought I saw another composition where the foreground created even more of a bowl effect than it did when standing high above the rocks. And of course you've always got to be careful when you're getting a little closer to the action, just to observe those waves so that you're not surprised by them, because they can really, sweep in when you least expect it. So even this far back from the water itself, we had to make sure we regularly cleaned our filters. You can see here that bowl-shaped foreground that caught my eye earlier on. I just love the way that it frames the bottom of this composition with that little sea stack central in the middle of the frame. The camera's in aperture priority here, and you may notice that the camera's being a little bit confused by the white water that washes in, and it has a sudden fluctuation in shutter speed, anything from 20 seconds down to about 6 seconds. So we've just got to be really careful when we're setting our shutter speed to make sure that we've got the best shutter speed for the shadows and those highlights. I eventually settled on an 8-second exposure, and once again I focus stack this image, and I'll put up the results now. So I decide I'm going to get a little closer to the action, and as you can see, portrait orientation was something that I was thinking of. I've changed the, rotated the filter just to make sure, and in I go. Now I wanted to get a little bit closer to that white water to be able to fill the frame with it, and really just put that large stack on the left hand third. I eventually went for a square crop for this because the top of the image was a little bit empty, but it just shows that you've got to have your wits about you. I was quick enough to focus and snap this shot before that water came rushing in, as you can see. As ever, I'm switching from portrait to landscape and just making sure that I flip my filters around the right way. Give us a quick wipe, and after a slight adjustment to the composition, I think we should be ready to shoot again. And I'll also be focus stacking this as normal, just to make sure we've got the option of blending it later on, to make sure that, you know, if we want that sharpness to be from front to back, that we can utilize that and stitch the three images together should we want to later on. Maybe wondering what I'm doing, but I want clearance on this rock here, and I want clearance of this little monster there. So I'm going to take a couple of shots. The first one here, this foreground. And then again up on here with the water swirling between those rocks. I may need to get a touch higher. That's better. There we go. Just take that while we've got it. So I was really pleased with that last composition where I lifted the camera up high enough to get that separation that we wanted between the two rocks. So I decided that we'd go for a longer exposure. Just making sure that I locked the focus on that central stack and given the filters the soft grad quick wipe to make sure that we removed any of those water spray droplets. I slipped in the 6-stop nice and snug into that nearest filter holder. Once we'd done that, again another final wipe or two, and then we could put the exposure up from 2 seconds up to 2 minutes. So we just got to make sure as you're adjusting that we keep a close eye on the histogram. We don't want to blow out any of those highlights in the sky. So I hope you can hear me. Trials and tribulations of equipment that goes faulty when you arrive on location. What can you do? Listen, I'd just like to say thank you very much for everyone who's watching, everyone who's subscribed. I'm blown away. It's a privilege to have you along with me, to choose me over many other bloggers, so thank you so much. And yeah, I hope this next bit you can hear rather than me having to try and lip sync, which would be hilarious. Wherever you are, please look after yourself, look after your loved ones, and until next time, see ya.